Welcome, fellow baked goods. I'm Mr. McScruffmuffin. Rumors that Billie Jean is my lover are greatly exaggerated, and today I'm thinking about lust. This is part of a series on the 7 deadly sins, so if you'd like to take a look back at the entire series, here's a link that's free of any sordid affairs. Alright, lust. Here's the one that everyone either loves or hates to talk about. Alright, now listen up. For the younger muffins who might be listening, I don't know if I have younger listeners, or any listeners for that matter. I don't pay attention to such things. I'll be keeping things free of anything too voluptuous. Bulwarks of modesty and all of that, I'm sure you understand. Okay, so let's launch into this. St. Thomas Aquinas, what did he have to say about lust? Alright, so he defines lust as a disordered desire for venereal pleasure. What in the world does that mean? Alright, well, to answer that question, I think it's better to start off with what things are not. Allow me to begin by saying emphatically and persistently that Catholics are not Puritans. The Catholic Church does not teach and has never taught that the body is bad, that relations are bad, that pleasure is bad, or anything like that. Quite the opposite, in fact. Okay, so you can pull directly from the Bible. Against the first claim, we have St. Paul saying that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. To the second claim, directly from Genesis, the first directive of God to humanity is be fruitful and multiply. Now, there's not really a whole lot of hidden meaning there. I mean, I think he's being very literal there. To the third claim, all over the place in the Bible you have rejoicing, joy, gratitude, thankfulness, happiness. And all of those points would be echoed in different voices throughout the ages, from the apostles at the thick of it to St. John Paul the Great, Pope Benedict, Pope Francis today. What we have, I think, is a sort of religious education in the previous 50 years, and possibly longer, I'm not that old yet, that's been kind of in the style of Dana Carvey's Church Lady. This super unappealing, holier-than-thou, go to Mass and follow the rules so you don't go to hell, squeaky style that claims to be open to dialogue but is not really. It's actually closed to any and all dialogue, and whose conversation never really rises above the 6th grade level. Fortunately, there's more to it than that, but unfortunately there's been a lot of misinformation and a lot of cultural changes that have made dialogue very difficult. That being said, I think it's best to start at the foundations. The foundations begin very simply. We're surrounded by a universe of material things. Beds, rocks, dogs, waterfalls, butterflies, stars, other people. And there's also an I in the universe. Each one of us is I in the universe. We're a subject, not simply an object like a rock or grass or something like that. Each of us is distinct. We have feelings, desires, aspirations, self-awareness, and consciousness. And with that sentience comes a series of decisions in how we are to interact with the world around us. Now, we have been given many philosophies, both modern and antiquated, that have been presented as lenses through which we can view the world. Hedonism, Stoicism, utilitarianism, and so forth. But the Catholic Christian philosophy presents something very different. Catholic Christian philosophy states that every human person is created in the image and likeness of God. This means a lot, far more than I could ever present in this talk, and indeed more than I or anyone else could ever truly comprehend. But what this means practically is that human beings are elevated above the rest of creation in a certain sense, namely that humans are persons. They're subjects, not objects. Alright, so an object like a hammer is something that has no higher order. It's simply a hammer. It has no ambitions, no understanding of itself in the universe. A dog is similar. It's a significantly more complex object, but it's nonetheless not sentient. Humans have souls, and as such humans are subjects. And as subjects made in the image and likeness of God, they deserve no less than to be treated as subjects. To treat them as an object is to fundamentally deny them their intrinsic and God-given dignity. I know it might not seem like it's that much of a step, but it really is when you sit back and think about it. You may be thinking this is all great, highfalutin stuff, but this means something very practical. It means that every human person is to be treated with love. And what is love? Well, it's either a poor song from Hathaway, or alternatively, St. Thomas Aquinas defines love as the willing of the greatest good of the beloved. Let me repeat that, because I kind of muffed that a little bit. The willing of the greatest good of the beloved. So it's willing. It's an action. We have to actively will something. You can't just sort of passively, oh, I hope for this. No, it's a will. And it's the greatest good of the beloved. So there's no substitutes. There's no selfishness. There's no halvesies in love. It's all that you can give. The greatest good. So what does that mean practically? Well, it means when we look at others and imagine them solely as objects for our use in some way, imagining that they would do this thing or that thing, or acting in this way or that way, or maybe even actually acting in this way or that way, we're using them as an object for our pleasure. We're using them as an object for ourselves, for our own utility. At that point, we're succumbing to lust. I know that some may object, and they may say this is the 21st century, or that I'm talking about medievalism, or I'm being neurotic, or that it's all natural. All I'm saying is that when we look at the situation with a critical and unafraid eye, a lot of what we extol in today's culture is not adult entertainment, it's not just a little fun, it's truly use of another person to gratify ourselves. Even if it's, willing on both sides, I think when we really sit back and critically examine what's going on, again, unafraid, we can't get better unless we look at things truly in an unafraid fashion. But when we look at these things, I don't think that we can honestly say that this is just a little fun, or that this is just a little bit of this thing or that thing. It's just use. Now, I have a lot more to say about this, and indeed I will, but I want to keep these videos a little bit shorter. So I'm going to end that part of the discussion for now, and let's talk about the contrary virtue to lust. The contrary virtue is chastity. It's not a belt, it's a virtue. Now, chastity is the virtue by which our procreative faculties, all those things that are pertaining to lust, are unified and integrated into our whole person. Through chastity, we learn to look at people, specifically people of the opposite sex, but also people in general, properly. They're subjects to love, wholly unique. They have dreams, aspirations, imaginations. In the Catholic Christian philosophy, they're persons with souls. God is calling them to come home, to holiness, just as He does with you or I. By chastity, yes, we may be attracted to a young woman's figure, or a young fellow's bulging muscles, or anything like that, but we learn the discipline to look beyond that, to the fact that they are a person, absolutely worthy of love. Attraction is not evil, sex is not bad. Both are stamped into the nature of humanity from the very beginnings of everything. It's when we look at others with the mind of gratifying ourselves at another's expense, again, whether it's voluntary or involuntary on the other person's part, that we step left of moral center. It's tough these days because the culture constantly funnels us sewage. But if you think about it, what a time to grow in chastity. We have so many opportunities for growth in our lives. Now, all of this is not meant to be some sort of a condemnation or something like that. It's not meant to be, morality from the marble pillar or anything like that, on top of the world and speaking down to everyone else. We're all struggling with things. And this is, I know, especially difficult for a lot of people. So maybe let's work together. Think about the relationships that we have. If there are toxic ones, those that are contrary to chastity, those where both people maybe are just using each other for emotional or physical pleasure or security, end them. It might be difficult, but we'll all be better for it in the end. They'll all help us to grow. They'll all allow us to move forward. More to come. St. Alphonsus Liguori, help us to be chaste, wise, pure in heart. Thanks for listening.